Hey everybody, Mrs. Norris here. So what I'd like to do in this tutorial video is walk you through our next module, which is actually a part of our larger Unit 5 module, but I've broken it up into its own piece just to kind of make it a little less overwhelming. So with this activity, we do have a set of know, understands, and do's. Let's take a look at those really quickly before we move on. All you're doing right now is watching this video and following along with me. So with our no, we're going to answer the following questions. How do Blacks, Native Americans, and immigrants contribute to and make sacrifices for the United States? What was the impact of slavery on American politics, regional economies, family life, and culture? What were slaves' lives like? How did slave families live in ways that were similar to and different from non-slave families? I want you to understand that amidst the confining world of slavery, the enslaved asserted their humanity in developing a distinct African American culture through retaining and adapting their traditional customs on American soil. Although organized revolt was rare, enslaved men and women resisted their bondage in formal and individual ways. Abolitionists were considered the most radical reformists by both Southerners and Northerners. Their arguments about the immorality of slavery were never popular with the vast majority of Americans. African Americans, free and enslaved, also actively challenged the existence of slavery, both as individuals and through fraternal organizations, churches, and newspapers. So with this module, or this special module, what you're going to be doing is evaluating a collection of artifacts that highlight the life of enslaved people in the antebellum South pre-Civil War. The word antebellum means a time period in history that was right before a major war, and most of the time that was referred to the South pre-Civil War. I do want to let you know before we continue on that some of these pictures might be a little difficult to look at, but they're important for you to see to get an understanding of what life was like during this time. Okay, now before I move on, the first thing I want to do is look at the module itself. So you can see that there are 6 different pieces. Now don't get overwhelmed by this. I broke it down this way because I think it's easier than having all of the documents together in one. For most of these, there's only 1 or 2 pictures or maybe a short passage to read and only 3 or 4 questions to answer based on what you're looking at. So again, don't be overwhelmed by the fact that there are 6. I did break them down to make it less overwhelming, and I think once you get started on the actual activity itself, you'll see that it's not that overwhelming at all. So in order to move on, you're going to have to do certain things. So you're going to have to submit to each of these discussions before I can move on as a student. And please don't do this yet until you are actually done watching the video. I'm going to have to mark it as done. Okay. So now once I mark it as done, I can move on to the next discussion. And I won't be able to move on to this one until I actually complete the task. Okay, so I've already gone through the know, understand, and do. In this first station, we're going to look at the life of an enslaved person in the United States. And what I show you how to do in this activity, according to the directions, you'll do in each of the other activities afterwards. Okay, so the directions are to copy and paste the questions below. So here are our questions. Okay, into the discussion thread box. Use the artifacts that are under the questions to answer them. So here are our artifacts. We have, on this particular assignment, we have some charts to look at, and we have a section to read an article. Okay, so I'm going to go back up and I'm going to do that first piece. It says to copy and paste the questions. So I'm going to copy, so highlight, and then right click, copy. So I'm going to go down to the thread and I'm going to click on reply and I'm going to paste. Okay. Now the answers changed from being red to just being black. So I do want to make sure that my questions are in red because didn't want to do that. I want it red, the text. I, as your teacher, it's easier for me to see them show which is your answer versus which is the question. So I've highlighted it. I changed the text color to red, and then I'm going to copy it. So right click, copy, and then paste, paste. Paste. So now again, the directions that I'm giving you right now will apply to all of the pieces of this module, regardless of which station you are on. So for each of the 6 stations, you're going to follow these same directions. Okay. So we're going to look at image 1, and you're going to look at the image. So it's going to give you some kind of a direction. Okay. So we're going to look at the image at the top. So I'm going to look at this one. Now, if I'm looking at it, and for some of you who are working on a laptop, it might be difficult to read. If you kind of hover your mouse over, you'll see that this box will appear. That will pop out the document to a different screen, to a new tab, and then I can make it bigger so that I can see. Okay, so this is going to make it easier for me. If I, again, hover over, you can see that I've got a zoom in option and then a zoom out. Okay. So again, I want to make it big enough that I can see it. And then I'm going to go back to my questions, and I'm going to use that to answer each of my questions. So now it says, look at the table on the bottom. So if I go back, where did that picture go? That refers to this table here. And then, an introduction to the life of an enslaved person, that would be this reading here. Now, it's not here yet, but what you will see once you get to this activity is an audio file link. So when you click on that, it will take you to an audio version where you can listen to the text and then answer the questions if that's easier for you. So you can listen to the text and follow along, and that should help you. Okay, so once you've answered all of the questions, make sure again that your answer color is different from the question color. Then you're going to go ahead and click post reply. So make sure you do that. All right, and then your reply will show, and then you can move on to the next activity. Now, in this case, the next activity isn't going to open up yet, so I, as a student, have to wait. Now, to get you to, or to encourage you to take this slowly, not all of the assignments open at the same time. So 1, 2, and 3 are chunked together, and then 4, 5, and 6. So once you finish 3, it's possible that you won't be able to go on to 4 until the next day. So again, I chunked them together to make it easier for you so that you don't rush through. And I'm going to get out of student view so that I can show you these assignments. So in station number 2, you're going to be looking at what auctioning slaves was like. And again, we have 2 different images. And then underneath the images, we have a reading section that will describe the auction process. There are 2 different auctions. You need to know what those auction differences are to answer your question, just to give you an idea. And again, you'll have a pop out, and you're going to have an audio file. And in this one, you're going to go to the last page first, and then go back and look at the pictures. Okay, and make sure you really study them. That's why the pop out is good, because with the pop out, you can make them bigger and really look at the details from the picture. Okay. So the next one, station number 3, you have 2 videos. Okay. One is about Frederick Douglass, and the other one is about John Brown. You're going to read those or watch those 2, and then answer the questions in the discussion thread. Okay. And then if you can't watch these videos here, there's a link here, or if you have your phone, you can use the QR code to watch the video on your phone. Okay. In station number 4, again, we have a reading from the book written by Frederick Douglass. Unfortunately, at the time, using words like the N-word was okay. So you'll hear that in the audio file, unfortunately. That's just the way it goes. And that's the only document for this to go with these questions. In station number 5, again, we have this one is called Attempts to Fight Back. And in this one, you're going to learn about the different mini revolts that slaves and abolitionists tried to stage as a way to draw attention to the evils of slavery. So we have a reading section, and then we have a video, or I'm sorry, not a video, a cartoon. So you can either use the QR code. I think the link might be up here as well. No, it's not. The link is right here. And we have a comic book that, again, you can zoom in and out if you need to. Okay. As for your second set of questions, and then there is a final picture. Okay. And then for the final station, we have torture and punishment. And this is the one that might be a little difficult for some people. So I just want to prepare you for that. Again, I'm going to pop it out. And we have the different laws that were passed in the state of Virginia as a way to control slaves. So that's the first document. And then we have a fairly famous picture of a former slave, but it is difficult for some people to look at. And then we have some of the tools used by plantation owners to keep slaves under control. Now, the last one is the student questions. You're not going to deal with any of that because the questions are already posted on the station assignment, and they're a little different than what is on the paper. So again, for each of these, what you are doing is you are copying the questions and then putting them in the discussion thread that is below, and then answering each of the questions based on the document file you can open from here. And if it says audio file, there will be a link to me reading the text to you if you need that.